Good afternoon. My name is Jim Markwalder with PROSTEP, uh, and I'd like to do a reprise of a presentation I gave at this year's Co-Experience in Dallas last May. We presented something called a Leap Forward with 3D Experience, integration at a premier aerospace company customer. So today I'll give you a bit of an introduction. We'll talk about digital thread and interesting topic, a project overview, some of the challenges we ran into, and what we thought were success drivers. And since this is a recording, I can't really do Q&A, although you're free to send me an email. So they always ask us to put an abstract in these things to begin with, and to talk about what we're going to include. And so we'll explore the benefits, how we helped this firm, what was good about 3D Experience, and we'll talk about the solution and some of the processes involved. A little bit about PROSTEP. We're a vendor-neutral independent engineering solutions and PLM software company. We've been around for almost 30 years now, as a matter of fact, 1993. We were founded by automotives in Europe to help them exchange data in the engineering and manufacturing process. We've been doing this for a long time. We have a German operation in Europe, and then, of course, a North American operation, of which I'm part of. Our primary products are Open PDM for integration and migration and collaboration, that's product data management, CLM, configuration lifecycle management, and perhaps our oldest managed file exchange program called DXM, which is tightly integrated with the previous ones. We have more than 500 customers. We're up to about 400 employees now. We've been a Dassault partner for quite a while, including being a development service provider, a V5 adapter, a 3D adopter, a 3DNX Innovia partner, and of course a 3DX partner and community partner as well. We enable integration between the ecosystem of disparate tool providers on the outside and our customers' core PLM platforms. In this case, 3DX was the program involved. And so we do integration, migration, federation, which is data linkage as opposed to copying and moving and replicating data, and collaboration, that is primarily the supply chain. And you can see at the bottom, we have a list of the kinds of people we can connect to and tools we can connect to on an ongoing basis. People tend to think that 3DX is hard to integrate with. They have a specific format, but we've demonstrated that you can integrate quite well with 3DX Experience. So I want to talk a little bit about something called gray work. And it's why integration is important. And we've all been familiar with it. Gray work is the work that people do to get around systems and tools that aren't working. Typically, it's done with copying, pasting, spreadsheets, email, and sometimes customized solutions. It is unproductive time expended due to inefficient processes and fragmented systems. In particular, as companies grow over time by purchasing other companies, you end up with a disparate set of tools and systems, and people try to align the necessary communications and operations using the tools they're most familiar with. Typically documents, typically emailed, sometimes shared on SharePoint, according to a QuickBase report, almost 3/4 of employees spend at least 20 hours a week looking for information across different technologies. And in a world today where time is continuing to be a premium, and data proliferation is stressing version control challenges, it's important that people not introduce errors because they don't have the right version, don't spend time trying to validate the data's right. All of that can be automated. Interestingly enough, IBM who solved some supply chain issues with integration, found that almost 70% of the time employees used to solve operational issues in the supply chain, true of engineering as well, is involved simply in making sure they could find, collect, and validate that the data they were using is right. The whole idea behind what we do is we want to make sure that that data is available on the fingertips. So one of the things this company was doing was it said, we can solve that problem. We can eliminate gray work or reduce it, and the person will eliminate it, and make sure people have the right stuff at the right time at the right place if we go ahead and build a digital thread platform that all systems must integrate with. So they were going to transform the business functions into an intelligent, federated model-based organization where data was maintained in the places it was used and accessed where it was needed. They wanted to implement this to support the digital thread. So we've heard a lot about a digital thread. What is it? Well, one needs to be synchronized. So one end of the thread needs to have the latest information, the correct information, as well as people in the middle and people at the beginning. And by thread, we typically mean being able to trace a path through the typical process. So it connects all aspects of a product's life cycle from design to production, sale, use, and now disposal and recycling. It should give a complete and transparent view of manufacturing systems, enabling efficient collaboration. And I should say, as opposed to necessarily a complete view, the needed view. Everybody doesn't need to know everything. They need to know what they need to know. So one of the things that we end up talking about here is just representations of digital threads. It gets kind of complicated. We've seen all kinds of them. Hook everything together, draw a thread through it. Needs to be able to look up and down, forwards and backwards. And so here's one way people look at it. Then they create a digital interface in the upper right-hand corner here. Another is a graphical interface, which works well for smaller depictions. But if you were to explode a project into a graph-based digital thread, you would find that it's huge. There isn't enough room on a screen. And yes, we all tend to work on laptop screens anymore. Maybe, if you're lucky, a couple of 22 by 17s. Anything bigger than that becomes kind of a stressor on the eyes. But in any event, problems with the graphical interface is very useful in showing how things are connected. But I don't want to know how everything is connected. I want to know how what I need to know is connected. And so how does all of this end up getting connected? Well, somewhere between what I just showed you and this very high level is we need to be able to access data from requirements, mechanical, electrical, and software, and so on. And to do that, we need to connect the systems from a data perspective, and then we need to be able to look at that data on an as-need basis. So I think this kind of an approach is a little better. So one, we need to make sure that the BOM data, MBOM and EBOM data is available. And typically we find people connect the PLM system to MES and ERP. Then we start seeing how we connect it to specifications data management with CAD data. And then we move into ALM, which at this point is becoming more important as software is becoming an integral part of almost all products. And then you need to link things together so you can do model-based system engineering and maintain your traceability and version control up and down the system. Finally, you begin moving your production and as-built data back into PLM so that I can see what I wanted to do at the beginning, connect that to what's actually happening. And then as I get into stuff out in the field at MRO, I want to bring that all the way back in. And so the digital thread, if you will, becomes a question of hooking things together in a fairly specific way as opposed to this woo-woo thread, fabric, connection kind of thing. So what was this project all about? Well, we had three main thrusts for this project. We wanted to connect the OEM Open PDM data to the supplier's 3DX data. We wanted the 3DX data at the supplier to be able to go into SAP, their ERP system, and we wanted to be able to move CATIA 3DX into Open PDM and then out to CATIA V5 for collaboration and sending out to suppliers. So those were the three main thrusts. So number one was create a generic framework for OEM provided 3D XML format data. Number two was make it a generic OEM framework so that it could be used on a variety of customers, remembering that our customer was a supplier and he dealt with many different OEMs. We didn't be able to create material masters in SAP. Creation of the SAP BOM from the manufacturing BOM is defined in 3DX. Creation of the SAP resources from 3DX Work Center and tool data. Process plan integration, which was a big deal, and processes to save CATIA V6 down to CATIA V5 as an attachment. So that was the project. So what were the challenges? Well, number one, this was a long-term project. This was the second phase of the project. And there were a lot of people involved from both the management side at the OEM and the supplier, as well as all the vendors, which were, of course, Dassault and PROSTEP, among others. And so being able to format the data for just reporting for both project management and executive level presentation and enable decision making there was a challenge. And I have to say that the third party SI did a good job here. Virtually all members of the customer's team had regular jobs. I think this is true in your own life, because anytime you're doing a big project operationally, everybody's got a day job. And demands in this project were intense and time sensitive. Team meetings. I have to give props to the SI in this particular case. The cross-functional team on the customer side, as well as the extended vendor member team, required diligent calendar management, and people needed to be there. They were, and that was a big challenge. Compute access. The IT infrastructure was not static. Upgrades and fixes and increases and decreases in environments over time all need to be managed. So success factors. The staffing of the Agile team was huge. I'm not a big fan of Agile. I think it's overused in small projects, but on a large project, which this was, I think it warrants a large team. Number one, they had a large Agile team. They were well prepped, and they had team members that were dedicated only to this project, which is important. Consistency. Cadences were established and maintained with a standard review process for all of the use cases and all of the user stories. Line of business participation, executive sponsorship. Going back to the reporting I mentioned earlier, the client and vendor teams had both sponsorship participation and line of business participation. So it was never IT or engineers off by themselves running in a disconnected fashion. Agile discipline. There were almost 1,500 user stories in this project. And with that many user stories, you have to maintain discipline so they don't run over each other. Business process clarity. Again, another big problem with these projects is line of business and business process needs to be developed, agreed to, and understood. And the user stories were well developed and they drove line of business alignment. Sprint adherence. From the user story to the UAT, the same process was used throughout. So it was just a rinse and a repeat. And there were a few speed bumps, but by and large, it worked very well. Team collaboration. Vertically and horizontally, LOB, line of business, and IT functions participating were well integrated and collaborated together. People weren't into name calling and arrow or finger pointing. Technical competence. Fortunately, even on a project this large, There were no laggards, or at least if they were, they didn't last long. Everybody had good technical competence. So, what made this thing work? Well, we had three big pieces, I think, that are important. Number one, the 3DX Experience platform itself is designed to manage across the entire platform when you get right down to it. I mean, it can be the center of a digital thread. All of the data is there. It's arranged in a way that is accessible and uh, can be used. You never have to say, what other place do I have to go to get the data? So it's a unified platform. As I mentioned, the integration spans all the phases of product development. Uh, and so it creates a cohesive environment for seamless interactions and a very good place for the entire organization to access everything they need, including systems outside of 3DX. And that's where we come in. PROSTEP is we enhance the 3D experience by providing automated integrated solutions. So you're not doing things manually. The integration is seamless behind the scenes once the programs are implemented. We connect internal systems, can extend to include customer systems, so not just across the internal domains, but also collaboration. The data flows are integrated such that when data is moved from one place to another, you know, whether it needs to be revised, updated, version control is inherent. And this ensures a seamless and efficient transition from design all the way to manufacture. And we strengthen 3DX's ability to support a comprehensive design experience. So good products, good people, adherence to the system, agile system in particular case, led to a successful project. Uh, that's it. If you want to find out more about what we did and how we did it, feel free to email me at jamesmarkwalder@prostep.com or feel free to call me or text. More than happy to discuss further. With that, I thank you very much. Have a good day.